Welcome back to the most important podcast in the world. I'm your host, Reese Wood. On this episode, friend of mine, Bill Eaves. Bill is a comedian, stand-up comedian. And so Bill and I met back in the 2000s, back in high school. We went to Beloit Memorial High School together. And Bill is always a naturally funny guy, at least in my opinion. Uh, he was a bass player, always a talented bass player, above my league when it came to playing, at least. I was a guitar player, I tried. Um, but Bill, always a talented guy, and I was definitely interested to catch up with him and find out what he's been doing since high school, to talk to him about his comedy. Man, if you went to high school with us, we gossiped about you, and you, and you. No, we didn't. But you might have got a mention in this episode. There, there might have been a little gossip, and it might have been only about you. There is some mention, and talking about gossip and talking about comedy. We talk about Mark Maron in this episode. Comedian, podcaster Mark Maron does the podcast WTF. And back in the day, I was following a show they used to do before he did his podcast WTF. It was Break Room Live. And so we talk about how I used to be username WTF. And man, have I been waiting to talk about that. Oh man, there was so much cool stuff we talked about with Bill in this episode. Um, Lots of his comedian influences, comedy influences in general. And CKY, we talk about CKY, one of my favorite bands, but some of the influence they had on the things we did in high school, some of the trouble we did or did not cause. It's not provable. There wasn't cameras back then. But we do talk about that stuff. There's even a mention of Batman in this episode, and that's to say a lot. That means we squeezed a lot in here. Everything from high school to politics, CKY, and squeeze in of Batman. This is only a part one, and I gotta say, if you're sensitive to vulgar language of any kind, you might want to pass on this episode. But if you're into those juicy details and all that type of conversation and a little bit of strong language, this episode is for you. It's always
Mm.
super embarrassing. I remember all the times on the radio I'd have stuff go sideways. I had Russ Feingold on, Senator Russ Feingold,
Uh-huh.
and he was like on a phone that was connect to our board directly, just a wire directly from the
Yeah.
phone to the board, and it would not connect. So the whole recording came out. I had a room mic that, like, for my luck, actually caught the recording, but no matter how much I boosted up on the edit, it still sounded like he was way back, like 100 feet away from the
Yeah.
microphone.
Yeah.
But like Ross Feingold, an interview that I was waiting like weeks for, and it still went sideways, directly plugged in. It's like, so I swear, like, you can never get stuff right. You're lucky if you do. I don't know who gets stuff to go right unless you got lots of money, and
Yeah.
which I did say I have. I did say most important podcast. I got the big budget, but I don't know.
You gotta, yeah, man. It's DIY. Like, it's all DIY culture now, and you gotta just fucking figure out how to do it yourself until somebody throws some money at it. The cameras
Don't.
that a lot of people use and the shit, like, yeah, it's almost disheartening now to watch podcasts and listen to podcasts for me because I'm a stand-up comic and podcasting is like one of those things that you're almost expected to get into to promote at the very least, or just to talk to work out ideas because a lot of comics will fucking start an idea for a joke just in a conversation or talking, and podcasting helps with that type of shit too, I think. And it
Oh
just
yeah,
everything's about content now. It's
I.
content.
You're right. You were saying about thinking about starting your own podcast, and I can't recommend it more because I know comedians around here in Wisconsin. And
Yeah.
every day to myself, I'm like, these guys need to be podcasting. Even if you're not good at it, you have to do it. There's times where I think about hitting a stand up and going for 10, 15 minutes myself. And the reason I feel like that is because of all the other things I've done. I've been in front of crowds for, like, political stuff and
Yeah.
made me super nervous. Like, I've had the worst things happen already, I feel like at least.
Have you done
But
stand up yet?
no, but I'm, like, this
Never.
close. I'm
You
pretty
got to
close.
go do it. If you're thinking about, and don't try to go do 10 15 minutes, Reese, for the love of God. Just try get the 5.
Five.
Everyone who wants to do comedy, I swear to God. I talk to people every day who want to get into comedy, and every day they tell me they have an hour, a fucking hour. Or if you have never done comedy and you think you have more than like
Yeah,
2 jokes, like you're wrong. I promise you, because the funniest fucking people that I know all started, and they all, it's hard just to get to a 5 minute set where that's consistently good, that hits with everyone. Because when you
yeah.
start, a lot of guys are just emulating their favorite comic or something, uh, or and no, that's pretty much what I've seen in seven
Oh, yeah.
years. Everyone's just emulating their favorite comic, and they come in expecting everyone to laugh at their shit, and you can see they'll like say something and then they'll wait. And I've done it too, where I my first fucking night, I just took 2 sheets of paper up there that was fucking stapled together of a bunch of jokes I typed out, and it was just like, this one did good. This one did bad. This one did bad. This one did bad. This one did good. This one did good. And then it was just like, I just fucking gave up at the end of it, and I was like, great, fuck this. Like I knew I shouldn't have done this. I knew I should have brought this up, and that made the comics laugh so hard that they like were like, no, come here, like, and they kept me coming back because I was like, fuck this, I suck, and they kept me coming back, and now like I don't know, I'm like one of the guys that gets consistently booked down here. And yeah, I've been
Nice.
doing it for a while, so like, it's tough
That's
though,
what
man.
that's what I was gonna start by asking you. So, like, kind of my first
Hmm.
question. So I've had 2 guys on so far, 2 comedians that I know that each they've been, like, 10 years in their craft. They've been doing about 10 years each.
Hmm.
So, they went through that phase where, like you were saying, they were probably trying to emulate somebody, but then they
Hmm.
moved into a more genuine self and, more of a genuine area, but so,
Hmm.
like, you're in the, like, aspiring stages, you're just starting. Like, how long have you been doing this?
No, I'm not.
Then
I'm
fill me
at
in,
like,
man. How long
well,
you been doing it?
I don't. It depends on if you count COVID. I know like I didn't do shit for that entire year and a half, right? Because like it was fucking Zoom shows and like stuff like this, or they'd be like,
Yep.
no, that's not what stand-up comedy is. You need the crowd, you need the intimacy, you need the fucking people there. It's like it's a group think session in my mind. So, um, I'm at six. I would say I'm at 7 years. I didn't do shit for that one year, but it's like I'm at the point now where I've kind of like made enough connections, and I've opened for enough people, and kind of like had a bunch of opportunities to move forward, and my real hang up is kind of where I live. Like I'm 3 hours south of Austin. I'm 2 hours, 2.5 hours south of San Antonio. Where I live now is like, there's comedy, but it's like you can't make a career unless you road dog it and go to like the valley, which is right next to Mexico. It's like, so you go to the valley, you go to these little towns outside, and you just take these private bookings, and whatever we can get in San Antonio and Austin is fucking massive right now. And that's what we're all, that's where I'm at, trying to. So I took a job just to get a new car because I had to cancel like my last 2 shows up north, and it pissed me off bad because like ultimately like that's the goal, and that's where I have to be, is up north. And once Rogan opened Mothership and shit, like that really, yeah, Austin wasn't necessarily like the city to be in Texas for comedy. It was either Dallas or Houston that everyone wanted to get to. But like once COVID happened and everyone knew Rogan was coming, even when they knew he was coming before he actually showed up, like people just started fucking moving there. And every comic or
Yeah.
person I meet in Austin now is from New York or LA or like Atlanta or something. And everyone, it's just like this mecca of progression or some shit,
Oh,
but
that's
like
nice. Yeah.
conservative progression. You know what I mean? Like it's still Texan town, it's still Texas City, and like everyone who's moving there is coming from a liberal area, and they're seeking out conservative politics and shit. Conservative. They just don't want to wear a mask. They want to pay
Yeah.
less taxes. You know, especially
Yeah,
you
that's
look at Rogan. How much money does he make? Does he want to pay taxes in Cali or Texas?
right, right. No, when he made that move, I was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. But I see people
Hmm.
like, okay, so Mark Maron, little
Yeah.
background, you're gonna love this. I haven't got to say this in a podcast.
Uh huh.
Mark Maron, his podcast WTF, right?
Yeah.
So Maron's not a big fan of all the stuff Rogan is doing.
Uh huh.
For some reason, Maron's always got an issue with stuff. But my issue with Maron is his podcast WTF. He stole it from me. And
What?
you're going to laugh at this. A lot of people are probably going to laugh at this, but I'm going to clip this out. I'm going to put it on TikTok everywhere.
Uh huh.
Marin. So back in the day, he did a show called Break Room Live with Sam Cedar,
Uh huh.
a political liberal commentator. He's still out there. But they did a show called Break Room Live, and it was like, I think it was like 2009 through the first Obama election up until like 2010. But it was just an awesome show. Like they were doing stuff ahead of the time. They were doing like live streaming like this, podcasting.
Uh huh.
Um, so I would always get on their chats. They would do Ustream chats. I don't know if you remember Ustream, but it was kind of like things are today, a stream video with a chat next to it, but back in 2010 era. And
Uh
I would be chatting as user WTF. And this is way before WTF. And he'd be
huh.
saying something, Mark Maron or Sam Cedar would be saying something, and my only job was to lay down a WTF when needed.
Uh huh.
And I know a couple times everybody would definitely laugh because there was times where a WTF when something was being said would be needed. So to know he went on to name his podcast WTF, I'm like, it's a great compliment, but I'm really wondering, did he just randomly come up with it? Because Marin, even to his mustache, rips off Frank Zappa. Like you
Hmm.
said, a lot of comics emulate the people. Not only do they emulate, but you know this as you keep going in comedy. Where do you get your material? From your daily stuff? What happens in your life, right?
Yeah.
Things that actually happen. You don't hardly ever do you just make something up. Like this never happened. It's usually based on something that might have happened loosely. And I feel like with
Yeah.
Marin, that's like indicative of a lot of things he does. But I still today, like, I can't really listen to his podcast because I hear a guy who Rogan's mentioned some other people like this that just kind of steal other people's routines, steal other people's stuff,
Hmm.
and they make their own of it. But, when you go before an audience, the audience doesn't know that you're using this or that from someone else.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it's something that I definitely wanted to have clipped out. Glad I got to share that with you. But Mark
That'd
Maron,
be
not
that'd
my
be
favorite
funny
guy.
if he like sees it and he remembers your username and he's like, "Fuck yeah!" He's like, "Yeah, you say that all the time," and I was like, "That's funny," because I mean, like that. Yeah, I don't know. It could be,
I hit him
but he
up. I
probably
did.
couldn't admit it at this
I hit
point.
him up very friendly on Twitter, like
Yeah.
once back in the day, because he said something else. And I was like, "Oh, this is a perfect opportunity." Like, I'll say, "Hey, you remember me, WTF from UStream?" And obviously, I mean, when a guy makes so much money off of a name and creates a brand like that, you're not gonna. I mean, it would be super
Wait, but
genuine
what did
of
he
him. I love
say?
using that word, but
Did he respond
huh?
to you at all?
No, no.
Yeah. See, that's the problem. Is like
And I was a
I don't
fan.
think
I
he's
was a big
reading
fan.
those. Yeah. I think once you get to like that level, man, it's tough to read the shit that people like. I don't know.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
fucking how much nonsense are they seeing? Like I wouldn't read anything if I was as famous as he is.
Oh,
I
totally,
don't think I could
totally.
read the hate because no matter what, like people are gonna hate you, and it's just like the people who hate you are way more vocal than the people who love you. The people that love you, they
Yeah.
fucking give you a thumbs up. The people that hate you write a fucking paragraph on why your fucking ears are weird. You know what I mean?
You are completely right. I've had actual reporters here in Janesville do that about me, and it's like I don't know where people come up with this stuff, but I mean, you're right. You're totally right. When the
You've had
negativity,
reporters in
like,
Janesville write about you.
yeah, for the
Oh, it's
campaigns I was talking about this like just the other day. There's an article from the COVID area campaign where I had
Uh-huh.
my signatures challenge. I was like I was the only libertarian in Wisconsin to
Uh-huh.
actually get on the ballot during COVID, the only libertarian in the whole state. And both parties challenged me, the Republican and Democrat parties
Uh-huh.
challenged my signatures and got
Uh-huh.
me taken off the ballot by about 14 signatures. And
What the fuck
so
does that mean they challenged your signatures?
so they you have to collect signatures to get on the ballot. For state
Uh-huh.
assembly you need 200, and I got about 220, 224, so close to the threshold because it was COVID.
Yeah.
And try collecting signatures. A lot of people think that it's not that hard,
No, I'm sure it
that you can just
sucks.
go knock doors, especially during COVID. No one wanted you to show your face, not
Yeah.
liberals, not Republicans, no one. No one wanted to be affiliated with someone who was walking out the streets door to door asking for signatures or doing anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I still did it. We did a park tour. We did 14 parks in Janesville because it's the city of parks. We made ourselves available, me, Ashley, and the kids. We
Uh-huh.
went to all these parks and we were like, so we'll do these public events. People can meet us, come give their signature. We did like everything possible to get those signatures, right?
Yeah.
Struggle. And then they have their attorneys, their leading attorneys from both parties, right? And you know how much money those parties have
Right.
against a guy who had $0. And they found 14 signatures. They said they're not within the district. Uh, Funny thing is about the district, it's got islands within it that are not the district. So you can look at this big map, right? And then there's islands of spots that are not the district. How corrupt is
Mm.
that? But those are the voting lines. And they found people outside of the district just enough to take me off the ballot, leaving only one Democrat and one Republican in the race. And to me, it was like the Republican was a Trump Republican. There was no
Yeah.
way he was going to win because it's a highly Democrat area here.
Yeah.
And the Democrat who had just stepped down, it was like her best friend, one of her great friends, stepping in to run for her spot.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, this election, this race is missing a real person. And that was the only reason I jumped into it because
Mm-hmm.
I saw two career politicians. Both of them had been on city council, both of them in the medical industry here in Janesville. It's huge, the medical industry.
Yeah.
So it's like these are people that everyone probably does automatically want on their state assembly seat representing them. But to me, and I don't know about you, but I want to see more regular people. I want to see people who have actually had a struggle or two in their life that
Yeah.
uh, might have a different opinion than what we talk about every day at city council. And so that's why I jumped in. But it was also like COVID was like, are we going to make it through this? Like I was one of these people that w- who knew what the outcome of COVID was going to be. I don't know how serious it felt to you at the time, but to me, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what direction the state's going in. I don't know what direction the country's going in. And it seemed really bad, like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What was it like for you at that time though?
I was a fucking bartender and a comic, so my life completely changed. Like it shut down. Like yeah, I was bartending, I was doing comedy, things were going great. And then, I remember being at the bar and I worked at a metal bar and we have metal shows and shit. And we just had a concert and our bar owner pulled us to the back and he's like, "Hey man, just to give you guys a heads up, there's this virus going around. You know that virus?" And like we're all talking about it and shit, and it's just like no one really. I was just kind of like oh fucking virus, like whatever. I didn't think shit. I really didn't. And once he like, I was like, this is weird that we're having an official fucking bar meeting
Yeah.
about a virus, and he's just like. Things are gonna change. I don't know. They're talking about restrictions and quarantine. So he gave us like these letters. Once the quarantine did happen, we had like he gave us. I still have them. I kept them, and he gave us these official letters that were like, "I am an employee of House of Rock, which has been deemed fucking an essential business during quarantine. So like I never stopped working, to be fair.
Wow,
Like
nice.
I all that time off that people got and shit and free money, I never got the free money. I never got the time off. So like I just kept fucking going and we that business almost died. I think every business almost I can't say his business almost died. I assume, but I think what really saved us was like people were very generous in the beginning. Like when we all thought this was going to be 2 weeks, everyone was just throwing money and tips at us and shit because they all got that relief funds and shit, and everybody kind of was like, "Oh, 2 week vacation," and then we go back to work. And then once the reality of it set in, we were fucked. And what kept us alive was we started making like pizza to like you take your own pizza home type shit. Like it's because it was a bar restaurant, and that's the only reason we got to stay open. It was like a bar restaurant venue, and it's kind of known for its pizza. And so it'd be like they give you two dough balls, some sauce, some cheese, and whatever toppings you want, and then like instructions on how to make your own pizza at home. And like people were buying those all the fucking time. And then he did like these badass stickers that sold really well. And it was really weird though. Like you said, I thought I ended up getting out of service because I was like, oh, it made me grow up a lot. I think like I
Yeah.
was kind of in a state of arrested development where I'm just this fucking I was a 30 year old 20-year old, and I just I was bartending, I was doing comedy, I was divorced. You know what I mean? So it's just like I'm a single dad, and like I'm just dating and fucking doing comedy and partying, and I was just like, all right, well, none of this is sustainable. None of this is actually gonna last. And you start thinking about the end of the world, right? Like, what's my trade? What am I gonna have to offer if this whole thing collapses? And like,
Yep.
luckily, I was military police, and I was in the military, and I did anti-terrorism. So I think my trade is like violence. To be fair, you know what I mean? Like we're gonna need violent men if the world collapses. So I'm just gonna have to like that's what I have. It's like
Be on the
I can
front lines.
protect everyone or not everyone, but there's gonna be some ranger out there that'll fuck me up. But it's like I did MMA for 10 years. There's always a bigger fish, but it's like
Yep.
I'll be that's the thing I have of value. I don't know how to fucking farm. I think I could fish. It seems it
I know
seems
what you mean.
easy
I
enough.
do. Totally. Yep.
Yeah, but the way that you take it. Like the way that you took it is like, who knows, man? I
That's
had
how it
no
felt.
idea.
Yeah. So it was just a bunch of craziness, I know, and it's like it it seems like people have regrouped, like people have almost got back to a point where everything just seems normal again.
Yeah,
But I
one
don't
hundred
know.
percent.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like I definitely think we're gonna go back to a moment like that at some point. I could be wrong, but that was the whole reason for me running that time because I was
With
like, this
what?
is as bad as it gets. For
Do
like
you think?
lockdown and stuff like that, it definitely could happen.
Yeah,
Definitely. But
it always
for
could
any kind of
happen.
reason.
But whether like the one thing that I feel like worries me now is that solar flare.
Yes.
Yeah,
Totally.
when I read about
Yep.
that and it was like scientists are like the internet's gonna go out for how long?
Right.
They don't fucking know. They don't know what's gonna happen with
There
any of
goes your
this.
crypto.
Yeah, I get. Well, yeah, there goes for everything. There goes the fucking internet. There goes the email. There goes like communication, like that.
Yeah, but my 25 bucks in Bitcoin will be done first, and that's the worst part. So,
Yeah,
but
is that the concern for most people? You think?
no, no, I think you nailed it. Like just internet going out in general is like the number one thing. If we were without internet, I don't know how much worse it could be. Like people are no longer connected and people start getting crazy really quick in those situations and it would be like, "Hey, stay home." They would find a way to tell people stay home. And
Hmm.
that's all it would be and indefinitely. And so that's actually why I do this podcast. There's so many things that I worry about. And I think the world's got to communicate whatever it takes, communicate anything, but start doing it. Otherwise, we're not use it or lose it. That's kind of my approach. Use it or lose it.
Yeah,
Because if you don't, communication's just one of those things. We could save each other. The world could also go a bad direction based on communication, but those are those are our tools. If we don't talk about anything and everything, And if
I
people
bet you
don't
the
care about
second the
those things,
internet goes down, China goes right to Taiwan.
you think?
The fucking second. They're probably ready. Yep, this is ours. And they just keep going. It's that, yeah. That's the type of shit that worries me about it is like how are we gonna know how who's what it you we're gonna have so much shit going on here, like who cares what goes on everywhere else anyway, to be fair.
Yeah.
If
So
that
like
happens, that's a nightmare scenario. How
it
think about
is
how much shit is like internet like dependent, right? You know what I
everything,
mean? Yeah. Most of us, and even
everything.
people would never know when things are open anymore. They
No,
barely
that's
know
why.
as it is.
So like some of my favorite like comedians growing up, George Carlin,
Hmm.
um, God, he was like the number one for me. And
Yeah.
like this is the stuff he was talking about, how civilization, responds to things, how
Society will
civilization makes
collapse.
fools of themselves in like every situation possible.
Hmm.
But like so anyone who's a fan of comedy is definitely familiar with like considering end time stuff or bad situations of any kind.
Yeah. We're all just negative people as it is anyway. Like
That's
most
very
of us are
true.
just pessimists and don't trust anyone or anything. Like we see that's what makes us comedians is we see the fucking shitty side first.
Totally.
A
Who
lot
are
of
some of
us.
the people like that obviously you had to have some favorite comedians growing up. A lot of people are going to watch this, and I'm going to have a disclaimer at the beginning, or not a disclaimer, but kind of like a background, just to let
Hmm.
people know. Like I've known you since at least high school, since around what was it, around the
We were
year
freshmen.
2000,
Yeah,
around
so it would have been like
2001.
2000, 2001. Yeah.
So we go back a ways, and I know quite a bit about you. Not everything, but
Hmm.
comedians. Like who was it that like you were always a funny guy, but just
Thanks,
naturally
man.
funny.
Thanks.
And I'll always remember that about you. Ashley said she went to school with you before we met in high school, and said even back then you were known to be kind of a goofy guy. And so, where did that all come from? Was it just like who you were, and you were trying to pull it off, or were you inspired by like
Horror.
did you
Years of
watch
horror.
comedians?
A horrible childhood.
Right.
Just having to it's really I had to move a lot. My mom, like my dad, I was with my dad and then my mom would like took off and shit and then so like I would bounce back and forth between them. And so like my dad was in Philly and then my mom was in Jersey. But even in Jersey, my mom moved every year. And like so I would be going to a new school. And then she took off and then I had to go back to my dad's and then I had to go to a new school in Philly again. So like, and then he would move, and then I would have to go to a new school. So it was really just having to learn how to get in with the people to make everyone like to get in with everyone in a new fucking place everywhere I went. And it's like the easiest way to do that is to be funny. You know what I mean? It's like just to
Yep.
have to fucking and to be fair, it's like I didn't give a shit what anyone thought about me after a certain point because I was like, I'm never gonna, I'm gonna move again anyway. And plus, I was weird as it is. Like I'm a weird dude. I'm a pessimistic guy. I'm a product of abuse, like most comedians. You know what I mean? Like just shitty childhood. You either end up wanting to kill yourself, or you end up trying to see what's funny about this. This is funny.
Yep.
This is really ironic. Things that are ironic fucking crack me up, and things that are horrifically ironic make me laugh so hard, and I don't know why. I really don't. I just think it's just like because you're kind of. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and you're raised to believe it's like a just world and all that, and even psychologically, there's a thing called the just world phenomenon where people just expect it to be. If someone gets hit by a truck, you're like, instead of being like, oh my god, that sucks. Like human beings can't just be depressed all the time, so they trick themselves into thinking like, well, he's probably a child molester. Like fuck him. You know what I mean? Like so it's called the just world phenomenon. Like it's a psychological thing and it's just kind of like I don't really think that. I just think it's just like like it's just fucked up. It's just fucked up and that may and people deal with stressors differently, right? And that's another psychological thing. It's catharsis. And for me, laughing at the irony of it, that's my catharsis. I don't cry. Sometimes I get mad. Often I get mad, I should say, but really, like I always laugh first, typically, or I end up laughing at it to not just slam my head into things over and over all the
Right.
time. Yeah.
Yep.
So, comedian wise, I went through phases. I think like everyone else, it just really depended on what I was hearing because like I grew up on Dice, like that was my dad's guy
Mm-hmm.
when I was young. Um, I always liked Bill Engvall when I was younger. I thought Bill Engvall was really fucking funny. I liked Dane Cook when I was like 18. You know what I mean? Like, so I went
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
phases of stuff, and it's like I watch those guys now, and I'm kind of like, oh, Cook just had this crazy energy, and he's just so fucking silly. You know, same
Right.
thing with Jim Carrey. I used to love Jim Carrey, and like I
Who didn't
love
want to be Jim
silly.
Carrey?
Yeah, I loved silly comedians when I was younger. I love that shit. I never like I liked Carlin. I would watch Carlin, but it was just like, oh, he's depressing, and I was a depressed little kid. I didn't want to be. I didn't want to listen to a fucking depressed guy. I wanted to watch like fucking. You know,
Right.
I like that shit. I like Chris Farley a lot. Like
Oh
Farley,
yeah.
fucking, I love Farley. My best friend reminds me of Mexican Farley. Like
Yeah.
he has just that kind of anger and energy, and but he's survived longer than Farley, so you're kind of getting to see him like just fucking start hating the world, and he's hilarious. And it's just once I knew, I went overseas and I heard Rogan's Shiny Happy Jihad podcast or CD. I bought that and I like watched that and listened to that a lot when I was in Guantanamo Bay, which is fucking hilarious. Um, just to listen to an album named Shiny Happy Jihad while you're surrounded by extremists, Muslim extremists every day. It was fun. And then once I got back stateside, I started listening to this radio show while I was a military police, so I'd be on patrol on base, and I was listening to this radio show called the Opie and Anthony Show. I don't know if you've ever
Mm-hmm.
heard of it. And
Yep.
Jim Norton, dude, I don't know. I just identified so fucking hard with Norton and the way he felt about himself and the things he was saying. And he was just fucking killing me. And then in listening to that, that's where I found like the Cellar Crew, I would call them, which is like Bill Burr and Patrice O'Neill. So Patrice is like my number one.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like Patrice, Burr, Norton. Those three guys are like, when I started listening to them and just fucking dying laughing. And I was just like, started thinking like that and I wanted to try it, and I did. I was like 30. I think I just turned 30, or I was 30. I was about to turn 31, and I was like, I better fucking try this if I'm gonna try it. So I did, and but yeah, Patrice, Burr, Norton, those are my guys. I watch everyone, but when I watch Bill Burr, it makes me want to quit comedy every time he puts out a fucking special because the shit he does, the way he flows into new jokes and callbacks and like fucking other things. It seems effortless, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not, but he's fucking good. Louis C.K. too. I think
Oh yeah.
he's so funny. So
I know. So my oldest girls are watching South Park a lot,
yeah.
and I'm like, you and me are the generation that started in. Like, I
Hmm.
remember watching those first episodes. I remember Daily Show with Craig Kilborn before
Hmm.
South Park, and just like that kind of language on South Park was like blew you away. It was like this had never happened before.
Hmm.
But the comedy was like just crazy, and so like if you're from that era and like comedy doesn't resonate with you, I'm kind of looking at you sideways because like we were lucky for that to come out. Like think about how boring language was on TV and even radio up until the 2000s. Like was that the one that changed it? I don't know, but like it
What do you
seems
mean?
like
What do you mean language? Like as far as cursing, or do you mean like
when you heard beep, 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 it was like one of the
yeah,
first South Park episodes. It would be like stuff beeped out. You never heard that
yeah?
stuff unless you're watching like an episode of Cops or something. Like that was not happening, but they were doing it for comedic like outcome for laughs, and
Because it was
it was
funny that kids
definitely the
were
first.
saying these horrible things. Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
horrible shit, but it was kids, and it's like, I mean, to be fair, like when I was a kid, we were saying horrible shit like that, so they were just kind
totally.
of really holding up a mirror. And I don't think a lot of a lot of parents like. I know my mom hated that shit, but and like you said, even beyond the shock value, and that's what a lot of people tried to say is like, oh, it's just shock value. When
Yeah,
their commentary on things was
it still is
prolific,
amazing. Yeah,
prolific. The turd sandwich versus the fucking giant douche. I think that was for Kerry versus Bush. Uh,
yep,
like just the shit they were doing and saying, and even still to this day, it's just kind of like they have their viewpoint is very uh interesting, and I think influential even on me. Like I typically when I see what they're saying, when I get their message, I'm like, oh shit, that's kind of how I feel about it. Like and that's just resonating with me. I don't know how it resonates with other people. I'm you know
yeah,
I'm a different person from everyone else, so I don't expect everyone to watch it. It's tough to watch it now, and I'm like okay, like
right.
these shows are gonna get pulled. Some of these, like any of the City Walk ones, Shitty Walk character. But then you watch Team America, and it's just like, dude, this was a fucking perfect movie. This is one of the
Right.
funniest movies ever.
One of the funniest. I guess so. I guess I am wrong. Before, I mean, Beavis and Butthead, Mike Judge in general as
Mhm.
like a writer was
Yeah, he
doing
was
stuff
doing that. Yeah.
kinda before then, but
Hmm.
like Mike Judge himself, like an amazing writer, one of my favorites. But oh man, I'm looking at my questions I got for you. Gonna sidetrack you to something else. Man, something you said about moving a lot, that is something I wanted to talk about because I was lucky. I said this like in my first campaign. I told in my press release, I said I was lucky to move around a lot when I was a kid. Lucky
Hmm.
because it like you said, it took me to different areas like throughout the Midwest. I went to so many different schools. I'd have to like you said, do whatever it took to like blend in to just
Hmm.
make it whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I had no idea you also moved around too, and that might have been why we got along in high school. Like we just had that similarity in that way.
Yeah. Plus, I
That
mean,
is
it's bands too. Like, we both played instruments. Like, you were a skateboarder. I like skateboarding, but I fucking sucked at it. And so I never got into it. But it's like, I played bass at that time, right? I was still the bass player.
yep, yep.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I
ended up
sucked at
moving to
skateboarding, but
guitar.
I did it.
Yeah, but I mean, but it was like, that was like the crew. You know what I mean? It was like me, you,
Yep.
Kevin, Ryan, Alex. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. AJ. But, yeah, like,
And I gotta give everyone a shout out. I'll just go down the
yeah.
list: Joe, Mike,
Joe Mike. Yeah.
Steve-O, just so many people.
Oh
But
fuck yeah, Steve-O.
we
Goddamn.
got lucky. Like I don't talk to any of those guys these days, but like if they're watching
Yeah.
this, that was a lucky time for me. I mean, like I said, my kids are homeschooled for the reasons of the stuff we did in high school. We definitely pushed some limits on some things. I'm going to out us right now on lunch breaks. I'll out myself
Yeah.
first. Lunch breaks during a certain winter came up with some bad ideas. A lot of
I don't
people
that
in that
wasn't our
time.
idea though, to be fair. That was
Oh,
from
it was all my
CKY.
idea. It
That was
was
Bam
yeah, and
Margera's
that's what I was
idea.
gonna say. CKY being, like, a huge inspiration to go and do just ridiculous stuff, and, like, we weren't videotaping ourselves, we were just being risky for no reason, and it's like,
Yeah.
I still look back, and that was some of the funnest stuff I did in high school, but I'm like, "I don't know if I should have been doing that," and that's definitely why I don't want my kids going, because 'cause they're gonna be more than me. They're gonna do what I did times 10, and I know it,
I don't know. I
but
don't know, man. But I
yeah.
feel like you kind of get that's the thing is like I had one life, and then, my kids have had a completely different life for me. And I don't really see my son jumping out of a moving van into a fucking snow
Or hanging
pile.
to the outside of it,
Yeah,
yeah.
or hanging to the outside of it, or getting hit by one. You got hit. He ran you over that one time.
I swear he did.
Yeah,
Yep,
he just kind of
yep.
like nudged you with it, and it was just like, oh my god, it's like, what the fuck? And it's just like, yeah, jumping off the roof. I still to this day think of two times of jumping off that roof. Was number one, was when Alex tried to jump off and his fucking foot got caught in the gutter. I don't know if you saw that, and he fucking
He
he fucking
still
belly
scarred
flopped
today,
on
I
the
know it.
grass. He fucking belly flopped on the grass because he was trying to jump into the bush. He was trying to jump into the bush, and his fucking foot just got caught in the gutter, so he couldn't like get his
Oh man.
feet under him, and he fucking smacked. And the other time was like I jumped into the snow off the roof with my shirt off, and like I was fine. It didn't hurt, but there was this girl that I liked, so I was just like, "Oh fuck, oh!" And it's like one of those 2 a.m. douche chill moments where I'm just like, if you would have just played it off like you didn't feel it at all, you'd probably been way cooler.
Would have been cool.
Instead of being annoying, it was just like,
Uh,
I was just annoying back then. I feel like
but
I didn't
if
know
there
when to
was
shut the
video of what
fuck
we
up.
did, if there was
I think there
video,
was for
some
some
of
of
it,
those
yeah.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
did
had, what was
backyard
it, the
wrestling. I did
VHS
all that
recorders you put
shit.
on your shoulder and stuff.
Yeah,
No, they had some digital recorders back then. We didn't have smartphones, so like good for that at least. But
yeah. No, but
yeah, I
it
see
was a tape. It was a VHS tape recorder. I remember because it was like we were mixing it on the VCR, or maybe I'm thinking of backyard wrestling. I don't know. See, now I'm at the age
all that
where
stuff. We did all
my
that stuff,
dangerous
and
shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I see people do it online today, and I'm like, you guys missed the time was back then, and that's what I'm saying. Like now, things are different, and like you said, kids are in a different era. Things are different, but that's the thing that worries me. Like, not that I
yeah,
can control everything, but I feel like I'm trying to put them in a different field, and it's not for everyone to homeschool. But
hmm,
I mean, it's like everything else. It's a roll of the dice. You're hoping for the best outcome, and that's all you can do. Like, invest your
yeah.
time as good as you can. But so I don't
I
know. I mean,
I still want them to do fentanyl.
yes, and
That's
it's
really how I
everywhere.
feel. It is, but I mean, it's just like I don't know. What can you do? Educate them about how shitty fentanyl is. Like, it doesn't do anything good. Don't try it once. I was lucky. Like for all the bullshit, I never tried like anything hard. Like I never tried anything. If I like cocaine, heroin, any of that type of shit, I was like, nope, nope.
Good
If
for
it's
you, man.
something like that, and I've lost like friends in Philly to heroin, and it's just like I don't know,
Yep.
man. I don't know. It must be fucking awesome, but I just know that it's just like pretty much the death nail in your coffin, no matter who you are. Like you're always gonna
Totally.
be an addict to that. So it's just can't.
There was when I started podcasting, the Beloit podcast.
Yeah.
There was a kid who was shot in a gang activity thing in Beloit. A kid, just like not even 10 years old, and
Oh shit.
killed in it. Right. But
Yeah.
so I started doing the podcast because like this was blocks from where we were living with our kids, and I'm like, um, it was like also this year that year our oldest was in school and they had the biggest contractor in the area doing work on the school, and they almost collapsed the whole building because they decided to not brace one of the walls they're working on while they're digging a trench next to it. And I'm like, so you got all the money in the world and from the biggest corporation that's doing the work, all the money for the work itself coming from the state to do this educational development, yet they can't get it right. They put all the kids' risk in life, all their life in risk.
Hmm.
And I'm like, so all these things happened in that year around like late 2014, 2015. And I'm like, community's falling apart. I don't even know what community is. Like, all I know is the place I grew up in for the most part was Beloit. And I'm like, it is even in 2014 did not seem like the place that I grew up in. I'm like, so
Hmm.
I'm going to start podcasting, just talking to people because like I genuinely worry about people. I worry that like people are losing touch of the ability to just like have faith in each other and like the idea of community, that we're not all bad, that we are like most of us are just people. We're just humans. We make a lot of mistakes. We do a lot of wrong things, but at the end of the day, we're not trying to hurt one another. But a lot of
Hmm.
people forget that. And a lot of people are starting to drift from that. And I'm like, so we do this podcast, and there were so many people, like you were saying about drug related stuff, that
Hmm.
would hit me up for an interview, and it would be like a month later I didn't do the interview with them, and they would end up in a drug related car accident, drug overdose, and I can tell you it's like more than 10 people.
Yeah.
So for anyone watching this, that's what happened in the early episodes of Beloit podcast. I had more than a handful of people actually hit me up that want to do interviews. They were just happy to do a Beloit podcast about their music or about something they did,
Uh-huh.
and they would end up like passing away from a drug related overdose. It is that common, especially around here. So like when I just now, even now when I'm talking to you, like you said, you never messed around with that stuff. And
Yeah.
like I can't tell you how proud of I am to even hear you say that, because people don't escape it here. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of places people don't escape it. But people don't find the next thing to do with their life, right? Like they don't find the comedy. They don't end up having a kid that of their own that keeps them here, keeps them grounded. One or another things don't keep them grounded. And like this podcast, all the podcasting I've done, it's like me reaching to our mom, just like, please, just like to some of these people, I'm like, please just reinvest in yourself because you got
Mm-hmm.
everything to live for. So
Yeah.
like these podcasts, that's what it's about. I love seeing you do what you're ambitious to do, what you care to do, and like keep doing it because
Mm-hmm.
that's all you got is what you love. And once you stop doing that, I mean, that's how everyone ends. Too many people end up without love in their life, of whatever it is. And hate to sound cheesy, but like that's my experience.
Yeah.
So keep it up, man.
Yeah. Thanks,
I
Reese.
gotta,
Yeah, I think what you're doing is cool too, man. Like I think it's fucking badass. And like I thought the running, the campaigning, and all that shit, it's good because I mean, like you said, there needs to be real people running. The people who are in charge are always. I mean, it's been proven at this point through enough studies that anyone who seeks out power probably shouldn't have it. You know what I mean? That's it's a personality type of. You're usually looking at a narcissist or a sociopath or something like that. And
yep,
man, you just kind of hope you get a good sociopath or a good narcissist. There are, I mean, it's like I've read about this shit. It's like it's apparently it's like I'm a fucking comic. I'm probably a narcissist. To be fair, you know what I mean? It's like you kind of have to you get like Batman. Batman's a good sociopath.
is that why he
It's
talks the way he does?
it's
Because
true.
he's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's why he beats the fuck out of people every night. It's because he's a fucking sociopath. He's just like, oh, crime, and he just kick your teeth in. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not justice. That's revenge or that's vigilante
Yeah,
shit, right? So,
yeah.
and that's his whole character is that that murder just fucked him up so bad that forever he'll never be normal. He's just the way he thinks, even the way he has a plan to kill the Justice League. You know what I
Man,
mean? That's a fact. That's a comic fact. He has a
wow.
plan to kill the Justice League, and it's called Doom or whatever. They made an animated movie about it. It was a comic series, but it's about Batman's plan to kill the Justice League. They like steal it from him and they fuck the Justice League up, and they end up not losing obviously because they're the main characters, but it's like they're like, why did you even have this plan? And he's like, I'm Batman.
Revenge.
I'm Batman.
I'm bad, man.
I don't trust anyone.
Uh,
I don't trust
that's
anyone. I
great.
don't look at this anyway. He's like the only people he's only all he cares about is the innocent. You know what I mean? The idea of innocent people. So and protecting them. So he will betray his friends to and come up
That's
with. He
hilarious. That
literally
is
has a
hilarious.
kryptonite. Like he has a big ass kryptonite rock that he keeps just in case Soups ever decides to flip the script and rewind the Earth or anything. Anything that Superman wants to. If Superman ever does anything that Batman feels like is against innocence and humanity and shit, then he's gonna kill him. He has a whole plan to do it.
Dang. This I
Yeah.
did not know. This is
Yeah, Batman has a plan for everything. That's
wow.
comic lore. That's comic that's the rule, man. That's his superpowers. It's called 2 weeks prep time.
Wow.
It's like if Batman has 2 weeks prep time, he can beat anyone in any comic in any universe. That's
You
that's the
guys,
thing.
you're hearing this first on the most important
They're
podcast in the
not
world.
if they're Batman fans, they already know this. They're probably like, yeah, no shit.
No, this is over my head. I can tell you that. And I'm the host of the most important podcast in the world.
I
Never heard
just
of it.
I don't feel like you give a shit about comics, Reese. Do
What?
you watch superhero movies?
I do. I'm actually
Do
a
you?
huge Marvel fan, but
Are
no.
you?
So my brother Tony, Tony, was the
Uh-huh.
Batman fan when we were kids. He had the Batman big wheels. I had a Ninja Turtle. I was the Ninja Turtles guy.
Yeah.
But but no, I definitely today I love all the Marvel stuff. I mean, I can't even think of a